elephant in the room, we haven't spoken about the 3-rider versus 5-rider podium. I thought Sven would have brought
Yeah.
this up already.
No, but thank you for raising it.
So it's out there. I'm not bringing anything up new. The riders all petitioned. A lot of XC riders and downhillers followed suit. 61 odd downhillers, 120 odd XC riders, just if some of the fans aren't quite caught up. Because in the off season, and I've just been reading the press release, the riders' representative claims that they were against the rule change going from 5 down to 3. And their voice was not heard in the meeting, but it went to 3 riders. Now, I understand they want to be similar to other cycling disciplines, but all the conversation out there is, but mountain biking is different. Mountain biking is 5.
you,
It's always been 5. Like, you're taking away the history of the sport. I'm
yeah,
wondering, I'm not in the room. It just seems like an easy win to let the riders have a 5-rider podium. You don't have to put it on TV. You can put the
you know,
3-rider after the race on TV and then do the 5-rider big one. Okay.
well, they kind
Context
of have
over.
done that. They kind of have done that at a few races when they didn't have the podium so close to the finish. They would do
True.
the hot seat. So they had the hot seat riders, and that was they had a flower ceremony, which was kind of essentially for the live TV. That was the podium. And what I'm most surprised with, and also the two things, why did when this rule was very first proposed, the rule change, why was there not an immediate kickback then? Why was it the weekend of the opening round in Brazil before any kind of organized kickback came? There's that. And then two, I can almost understand Warner Brothers' discovery argument for it in cross country, which is an Olympic discipline. Downhill is not an Olympic discipline, probably will be someday in the not too distant future. But at the moment, it's not an Olympic discipline, so we can have whatever kind of podium we want. This is, 20 years. The riders have had bonuses cut. If you're not, the bonuses went to the top 5. Now cut quite a few teams' bonuses go to the top 3. And sneakily, they quietly did away with this. 3 years ago, the overall World Cup used to give 5 trophies of those glass trophies. And then 2 years ago, without a word to anyone, no prompt to anyone, they just switched to this is Monsanan, I think it was when Finn won 2 years ago. They just suddenly had 3 riders, and they were literally the 4th and 5th place in the overall riders waiting, and they just were never called up. And that was never communicated to anyone that was going to happen 2 years ago. And this is in the World Cup overall, so different to podiums. So they kind of been secretly, or not secretly, but quietly kind of getting in the direction they want to get for whatever reason, because there is no upside to me to having a 3-person podium, especially in downhill.
I can see both sides. They're like, obviously, Warner Brothers like, let's just keep it the same as every other cycling discipline. What's this weird 5-rider podium? But there's this history, like all the record books. Does that mean one of my podiums doesn't count? Actually, don't know. I'm gonna keep it. So it's just interesting.
So far, the cross country riders have twice unofficially jumped the fence, and there's videos of behind the scenes videos of like the security and staff trying to stop Nino and them getting on the stage and copped a fine. Will the downhillers have enough? I don't want to say that word.
Balls. You're allowed to say balls,
Well,
aren't you?
there's have enough guts,
Oh, downloaders. Oh, there's ladies. Excuse me.
male and female, to jump on that podium and do the old 5-man podium. But then, as a photographer, what do you do? Like, which one do you use, or as a team? But like, and just have the wheel. Everyone said they'll gladly crowdfund the fines for the year. You can probably find a sponsorship to pay the crowdfunding fines. Alan, would you let your rider jump on the podium if they were 4th and 5th? If there's no other way to protest?
Yeah, I don't think that's. If I'm honest with you, I think that it has to be done earlier than that. We've had some meetings with Warner Brothers about a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff I obviously can't talk about on the podcast. But I think that, like you've mentioned earlier about this came out in November. There was comments on the manager's discussion about what do we do about it. There was some pushback then, quite clear, we're not happy with it, we want it to be 5, and the manager's sort of committee pushed that back. And I don't think, if I'm honest, Warner Brothers are that interested in entering a discussion on it. I think that they feel as though it needs to go to 3, and it's going to go to 3. I would love it to be 5, and I think a lot of riders would love it to be 5, but I honestly don't think they want to entertain a discussion on it. And because of that, it's going to be, the riders need to, like you were saying with the Live Tour, they need to come together and actually sit down in a room. I don't think you're going to get the best from anyone if
They've tried that. It's not working.
but I don't think they've got in the room. I think they need to get in the room, and they need to have the right people in the room, and they need to have a good, proper discussion where there's an outcome. Because I think a lot of these things end up with a lot of voices, no outcome, or it's on a group chat. And I just don't think these things can be done apart from if you're in the same room. And I think it could be a bit messy. And I don't. I don't want to see something done where someone's scrambling over the side and a security guard's trying to rugby tackle them, because, in my opinion, they're the 4th place guy or girl. They deserve to be there. It's not sitting that easy with me, and I'm not really sure how we're going to get a decent resolution for it.
Prize money?
Yeah, I can understand Alan's caught in a rock and a hard place with his role.
Yeah.
Sven,
Well,
and
you
I
want
can
it to
see
look.
your
You want
side.
you want it to be professional. You don't want to.
Yeah, and we saw it. We saw it with Crankworks, and everyone said, "Why did they fly all the way out there?" And it's like, well, we didn't see the discussions and the attempts, and like, we're opposing this, and can we have a discussion, and can we have a voice? Can we work together for the greater good of the sport? Like, it doesn't seem to hurt the organizers as much as we feel to have 5. Like, it seems like such a huge win for the one side, and maybe not a huge loss for them, but I'm not in the rooms to understand what they're trying to achieve. And I think you could have had both. Maybe you can visually have 5 for the teams, the riders, the pink bikes, the vitals, the misspent summers. And then maybe for TV, we say, okay, but for TV, we're doing 3. So, we go with that. But as Alan said, like, you have to get everyone in the same room, but everyone is focused on their own agenda, which is pretty natural. So why did it happen so late? Well, I don't know. They did try, and just no one listened. So then eventually it gets to desperate measures. And I messaged someone connected to someone on this podcast, said, right, so now that you guys have grown a pair and you've decided to push back on one of the things you're not happy with, because I've heard of the 7 million things you're not happy with, are you going to boycott the podium? Question mark. Not saying you should. This rider texted back and said, hell, not if I win the thing. And I thought, yeah, you're kind of right.
I mean,
you can't
rob
a guy of a win.
3rd place.
But you can if you Loic Bruni. You can if you Umri, and you take one for the team. That's what also needs to happen. It's like with the slopestylers, the people that lost the most by doing that protest were the guys at the top of the sport, and they took on for the team. They lost a lot of prize money, lost bonus money, and they were fighting for the smaller guy, the greater good of the sport. So maybe you need a Loic and an Umri and look, we're not going up there now because we've tried the nice way. We're all trying to work in the same direction. And I feel for Warner Brothers, because they might, well, the people that work for Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers said, make it 3. So you got to make it 3. Like, maybe you don't actually want it 3, but the powers that be said you should. I wish we could all get in the room like, guys, isn't this an easy win to try overturn this one?
What upsets me as much or more than anything else, I think when after the couple of days after the first Brazil World Cup, the Warner Brothers Discovery did issue a statement, and in the statement it said this was proposed back in November, and the stakeholders and the rider representatives were aware of this. So they made it seem in their statement.
Well, they said aware, and they said they were okay with it.
No, it said, yes, it said they were okay. And that is completely false. They were not okay with it. Both stakeholders, because you got to say teams and riders are stakeholders too, not just other sponsors. So that statement, which that's the one thing that irritates me most, that statement was inherently untrue. And it's maybe written in such a way that you could, have a bit of a cover your ass to that statement. But the rider representatives were not, and I could go into more detail of that, but I'm not going to, but they were not okay with it and signed off on it, and nor were the teams. So that statement's, their excuse is inherently false. I do think perhaps the the boycott or should have been done earlier, not the weekend of the race in Brazil. And hats off to those slopestylers, because they got exactly what they wanted out of Crankworks, and so well done. It worked out for them.
Yeah, and the spokesperson Rebecca did confirm what you're saying, Sven. They're saying what happened was a bit false, and we're just stating facts here. Like, it wasn't a correct statement. It's not fair to say that the riders were okay with it or aware with it. It's like they all unanimously basically said we don't want to go to 3. So it is a pity. We're just commenting on what I thought I had to bring up. There was going to be some drama in this podcast. That's one of it. It's all over the internet.